Hi there. Hi, gang. Hi, everyone who's joining either live or in the follow-up videos. Look who's with me this week. My colleague, Maria Isabel. You're over there.
Hello.
So thanks for coming back from vacation, Maria Isabel. I'm happy to see you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And I'm sure everybody who's listening, answering questions, will be happy to have your input. Also, for those of you who are new, we just dive right in. People submit questions and we answer questions about consulting. Some are from solo consultants, some are from very large firms. In the middle, you name it. Pretty much everything is fair game. So Deidre, our colleague, is going to put the first question on the screen and we'll jump in.
All right. David, given everything you're seeing with AI, what marketing approach do you recommend most for a consulting firm that wants to build IP? And this question is from Jay. Thank you, Jay.
Okay, wow. That is an interesting question. I feel like we're kind of like early early humans who are just starting to venture into new lands. I mean, you think back like 50,000 years ago, that's what it feels like. We're in this sort of world of IP, and it's not clear at all where it's going to land. I mean, in this world of AI, I should say. So AI has completely changed the game on IP creation. I do have some worry, Marisabel, I don't know if you share this, that human truth may have stopped in February 2021, which is when ChatGPT's database runs through. But I also think ChatGPT is maybe eclipsed. And there's so much concern about whether any IP will be real or all be AI generated. So anyways, let's set that aside for the moment. Those are like big metaphysical, huge questions that face us as consultants. I would think about this in, first of all, I would think about two types of IP. There's just useful IP that creates value for clients, but isn't new thinking. And then there's breakthrough novel thinking, and that's thought leadership. And most of your IP is going to fall into that first camp. So at most, it's kind of a restatement, maybe a recharacterization of existing ideas. And usually it's formulating ideas into some sort of format that's useful and valuable for clients. And I would absolutely, excuse me, I would absolutely use AI to generate that kind of IP faster. You can use it to edit. You can use it to spark ideas. We have an article, I think, Maria Isabel, that talks a little bit about some clever uses of AI.
Right, you wrote about that.
Yeah, so we'll post that article later because you can use it as devil's advocate. So that's one kind. The other kind of IP, which is thought leadership, there I think you can use AI as a tool to recognize patterns, maybe or to help you flesh out and communicate your ideas. But ultimately, you, the consultant, have to sit down and research and test and develop those new ideas yourself. So that's not where AI plays. Hopefully that was cohesive. So those are those kind of two ways that I would answer that question.
A follow-up question that maybe some of the folks listening now or watching this later may have is, do you suggest using it as a first pass, using AI for the first pass, or perhaps using AI to polish? Which do you think it's working?
Yeah, so again, let's sort of separate where you have and hi Tanisha, thank you for joining again. And if you have questions, throw them in. If where you're just sort of doing useful IP, I think you can, and you have a question, you're not trying to create thought leadership, you can do a first pass and it will give ideas. Just be wary with AI of what you're getting. Right. Where you're doing thought leadership, I may be old-fashioned on this, but I think actually your obligation in thought leadership is to first develop some ideas, some hypotheses, some thoughts around what could be new, and then maybe use AI. So I would draw that line.
Cool. Sounds awesome. I think that's a great starting point and a good answer to this question. Hopefully useful.
I hope so. All right, let's do another one. Let's see what we got. Marisabel, whatever comes up, I'm going to give it to you. So Deidre,
all right.
what's our next question? When I'm working through a third party, should I
Mhm.
still propose multiple alternatives? Oh, that's a good one from Louise. All right, Maria Isabel, all over to you.
Okay, thank you, Luis. When you work with a third party, everything gets a little bit trickier, right? However, I think our answer is yes. You propose alternatives, or you try to as much as you can. There's a couple of ways you can think about this. Say your third party is a platform. You can incorporate alternatives into your pitches.
And by platform, you mean folks like Catalant, Graphite, TopTal,
Exactly.
Umbrex, Veritex.
Even Umbrex, right? Where the client is somebody else's client, but it's not a consulting firm's client per se, right? So you're who you're accessing the client through, it's more of a talent platform where they do matchmaking services between clients with projects and consultants with expertise, ideally. Even in that scenario, build alternatives into your pitch, your proposal draft, your thinking. It shows both a willingness to see how there are different ways to solve a problem and invites that dialogue. So even with limited information, say, look, in our expertise, these are 3 ways we could go at this. That's one kind of third party. Another type of third party is the one we just mentioned, when you're working as an independent consultant in the context of a broader firm. In that case, yes to alternatives. At the very least, you give your counterpart some language as to how they can speak to their own client or to their own prospect and how they can think about the problem and where your expertise will be valuable. A second layer in this case is you can give them alternatives for how they work with you. Look, you're bringing me into this engagement. Here's a couple of ways I could add value to you, to your team, to your firm, to the client. And engage in that flexibility as well, in that back and forth flexible thinking in the way you structure your collaboration with the other firm. This is very powerful, particularly when your counterpart is at the same time negotiating with a client. What degrees of flexibility do they have and how do they structure that? Hopefully that gets them an ability to find opportunities to close and to reach agreement much faster. What do you think, David?
Yeah, well, I like that. I like the distinction you made, which is yes, create alternatives for scope, if you will, and then also if you're working through a third party, create alternatives for how you work together. So I like both of those. Those are excellent. And if you have additional questions, if you're listening either live or afterwards, just type them into LinkedIn and we'll answer them. So Deidre, let's keep moving though, so we can at least get maybe another question or two.
All right. So David, how does one structure a monthly retainer? I think this is becoming one of your favorite topics this trimester, this quarter, right? It's coming up so much. A monthly retainer without reverting to trading hours for dollars.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. That question's coming up a lot. There's a lot of retainers. So if you're new to this, go back previous weeks. There have been a lot of discussions. We also did a webinar recently with a partner on this. Okay. So first and foremost, make sure you're using the right contract structure for your engagement. If you are doing project work with defined deliverables and it's your effort, then use a project fee, not an advisory engagement stipend type, or what people call retainer fee. On the other hand, if you're being engaged for advice, then you can use a stipend or you can use a retainer type engagement. And in that case, you're being paid for access to your firm for a certain period of time, not for a certain number of hours. So get the right contract structure in place. And let's just assume you're being engaged for an advisory relationship and you're saying, well, how do we not just make it dollars for hours? Well, you say you're hiring us, you're getting access to the firm for a month or a quarter or a year or a decade. That would be a good contract to win. We'll go for the decade one. And of course, there are all sorts of factors that will affect the scope of an advisory engagement. And we have an article on this. So I will post a link on this later on the different factors, because there are things like breadth of the topics and who in the organization can contact you, and who from their organization can reach out, who from your organization they'll actually get to talk to, and how quickly you respond, all sorts of stuff like that. So we have an article that lists them, and of all of those things, none of them are ours. And I think that's how you get yourself out of the hour business. There you go.
David, I have a follow-up question, which
Okay.
we often hear about, and perhaps the folks who are listening or will listen will care about. Some of the largest consulting firms will still ask for a timesheet, right? They need it for their own tracking, for their own learning. So how do you encourage the separation between I'm tracking time for, say, administrative learning purposes with the I'm tracking time because that's how you pay me?
Okay. I think it's a really good question. And I'm actually going to take that question and say we table it, just because it's outside of the idea of this retainer, in what sounded to me like an advisory engagement. But so it's a separate question, I think deserves some time, because we do hear it a lot. And so, Deidre, I'm going to ask us to put that on the queue for next week. So I'm dodging. Sorry, Marie Isabel.
You're allowed to do that. All right.
All right.
And that way we'll see whether that's interesting or not. And that comes up for other folks or
Deidre, not. Let's try to get one more done.
One more question.
Okay. What do you do with prospects that ghost you? Initial contact went well, multiple questions, good rapport, intended a group session as a guest, said we'd talk soon. Then nothing, no response or emails or calls, John says. Poor John has been ghosted. All right. 2 minutes, Marie Isabel.
John, it happens. So if it's any consolation, you're in very good company. So it happens so much that David actually wrote an article pretty recently about it, if I'm not mistaken, a few weeks back. Yeah. So generally, a couple of things. One, immediately, right? Says, look, say somebody left you standing out in the cold and they didn't show up when they weren't, right? You don't wait. You don't wait a second as it relates to that. Say there was an email or you're trying to arrange for a meeting, which is what most commonly happens, thank goodness. We suggest you give it 4 tries. 4 tries who are all independent of each other. So you're not referencing your previous attempt in your next email, about a week to 10 days apart. And if you have multiple ways of contacting your prospect, and that's the way you relate to each other, then use different formats, right? So say you are both in touch via email and through LinkedIn, or you're in touch via email and through SMS. Use both, not simultaneously, but as part of your 4 attempts. Once you're done with that, then ask a more pointed question. Very simple still, but saying, it seems that this is stuck. What can we do? What can we do to make it start moving again, get it out of idle, and get some motion in there? Or I think you had called it, David, shake it loose.
Yes, there's a shake it loose email. Right.
Right, a shake it loose email. After that, you wait another week and you give somebody the way out, an easy way for them to tell you the project is on pause, we decided not to do it, or we decided to go with somebody else, right? So again, simple, one question where you offer, say, no problem. If your answer is you've already made a decision, then we'll close it. Or if the answer is you're not doing it now, which is what we hear a lot today, then we'll close it. And lastly, if you have a final email, right? Why did you decide not to move forward? And I think that gives us, David, it puts us up to time.
Yeah.
More or less.
But so I agree. Then someone that wrote in LinkedIn, and I agree with them. This is one I think is worth checking out the article, and especially the comments. There were really good suggestions from other people that I think improved the content of the article. And so check out the article. We will post a link to it. Exactly. Marie Isabel, you're right. we're out of time. So three quick requests to you. If you're not connected to Maria Isabel and to me, Deidre has put down there the how to connect to us on LinkedIn. Please connect. We love connecting with you on LinkedIn. Secondly, if you're like, articles, what articles? What are you talking about? Subscribe. There is tons of content on the site. Get the weekly article. They're interesting and the comments are even better. And third, submit questions. Let us know what's on your mind. Okay, info at David A. Fields, or just put it on LinkedIn. So thank you for joining us again. Have a fabulous week. Always remember, consulting is about them. It's about your clients, about your prospects, not about you. So give them value and give them kindness. And we will see you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.